Your home, you have a great view of Seymour from this area, so a good spot to set up shop. Nice little flat area, the river's right below. Yeah, not a bad spot to live in the woods. All right, time to take a left and carry on. Next stop, Cold River Lean-To numero uno.
Time for a history lesson. Noah John Rondo was a well-known Adirondack mountain hermit who lived alone year-round in the high peaks here in the Cold River area, where he lived in a log, board, and canvas hut that he built for 37 years. 37 years. He was born in 1883 and died in 1967 at 84 years old, and he's buried in Lake Placid. Rondo also kept very extensive journals over decades, and it's said that he actually enjoyed visitors and often played his violin for them. I imagine he met many NPT hikers back in the day since the trail goes through his home. But check out the book Life with Noah if this badass Adirondack legend interests you. Once past the John Rondo Hermitage, where there's a plaque and a few leftover knickknacks, the trail continues its push between the Sewards and Santanonis in a big open forest. Great views of Cuxicraga and Panther in particular looking east, and the Sewards and Seymour to the west.
Hammering away on this trail. Right now we have some nice views through the trees, since there are no leaves on the trees, of the Santanoni Range. You can see Panther right in front of us, as well as Cuxicraga. Cuxicraga looks a lot bigger from down here than it does when you're standing on top of Panther. And then you can see Santanoni as well popping up. So here on the Northville-Placid Trail, you get some views of the Santanonis and some views of the Seward Range.
We were 3.6 miles away from the Cold River Lean-To number 1, and from here you gradually gain elevation over the course of the next few miles. And it was at this point in our day where the final push became a challenge. The trail was snow-covered once again, and we gained elevation, so we were experiencing more of that typical springtime thaw post-holing with every step through the snow. Step on the snow here, and sink. Step there, and sink, and repeat for 3 miles. It was a physical challenge, which at this point into the day made it even more difficult, especially given how fast we've been pushing the last few hours straight, with no real stops for today more than the 10 minutes for lunch.
So the weather is pretty wild right now. It keeps changing from sunny to super cloudy and snowing, and then back and forth. So it's pretty crappy actually as far as the weather goes at the moment. And we're definitely approaching our destination of the day, which it looks like is going to be the Cold River Lean-To number 1. But we're pretty shot, pretty tired. A lot of the trail today had some very slow sections. And then there were some sections that were cool and nice, but a lot of slow moving. But we're definitely ready to be there.
But the two of us were basically doing the zombie hike these last few miles of the day. Completely zoned out, quiet, just walking in the old snow. Gaining elevation gradually yet consistently as we climb up in the snow towards Duck Hole. After a good 3 miles of the leftover winter conditions, with last night's fresh snow on top, you can imagine we were physically shot. Josh was hiking ahead of me and I was behind. My dogs were barking at this point into the day, along with just being plain exhausted since we had been pushing non-stop since we left Kelly Point this morning, which felt like it was days ago at this point, but it was only 9 or 10 hours ago. We eventually arrived at the Wardbrook Truck Trail Junction where I heard Josh yelling from up ahead. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I was hoping and praying that he was saying, "We're here!" But as I got closer, he was saying that we were 0.4 miles away as we arrived at the trail junction, marked with a sign. Wardbrook Trail to the left, the NPT to the right.
Well, we just got some good news. We are 0.4 miles from the lean-to that we're going to stay at tonight, Cold River, number 1 or 2. We are 0.4 miles away. We just passed the sign for the Blueberry Lean-To, Seward Trailhead at Corey's Road, a whole bunch of other stuff. But snow is definitely coming down, and we're in pretty much full winter mode here on the trail back here right now, so that's unfortunate. We have the stuff we need for it, but yeah, definitely preferred the warmer weather with the sunshine. But thank God, 0.4 miles and then the day is over. Start a fire, try to dry off my socks, my boots, and change some other layers on, get warm because it's going to be another very cold night. And I'm sure it's going to be snowing again, and we'll wake up with snow on us in the lean-to, judging from what it looks like right now. Spring in the ADK. More like sprinter in the ADK.
I will say it was nice seeing that sign, though, and reading the familiar names like the Ward Brook Truck Trail, the Blueberry Lean-To, and other names anyone familiar with hiking in the high peaks would be. If you've hiked the Seward Range, you've seen these names. So we banged the right, and we were 0.4 miles from the lean-to. To make matters worse, it was snowing right now, so we continued crunching through the old snow while fresh snow fell from the cloudy sky, and then we arrived at our destination, a small clearing with 2 lean-tos. The zombie walk was complete. We made it. 5:35 p.m., Cold River Lean-To number 2.
And we have made it to Cold River Lean-To numbers 1 and 2. Thank God. Josh is scoping them out right now. Looking at the first one here. You can probably hear me breaking trail through this snow, which hasn't melted on this stretch of the trail. What'd you say? I'm getting reports that Cold River Lean-To numero 2 is kind of wonky from Josh. So we're gonna go across the little clearing here. Check out number 1. But we're here, finally made it. Another 20-mile day is done. Time to build a fire, eat some food, go to sleep, and hope the snow stops and our stuff will dry.
There's 2 lean-tos at this area, Cold River Lean-To number 1, Cold River Lean-To number 2. Number 2 was on our right, with the Cold River in sight about 75 yards down below the bank, and then Cold River Lean-To number 1 was up on a little hill to the left. The 2 lean-tos sit about 50 yards apart. So we checked out number 1 and then number 2, and we opted for number 2, since lean-to number 1's fire pit was covered in a few feet of snow. Clearly no one's camped there for a long time. Oh, and did I mention we haven't seen any people yet on this hike, nor any footprints anywhere? Huh, not surprising. Not many people hitting this section of the NPT this time of year, I suppose. Can't blame them. We made it to camp, and there was no way we were going to push another 1.5 miles in this sloppy snow that we've been trudging through the past 3+ miles just to get to Duck Hole. We were home. For the night, anyways. Time to set up camp. Unlike last night, we didn't immediately put our Crocs on since it was winter up here and there was snow everywhere, which was a bummer because it's all I wanted to do. Taking off the pack, however, felt fantastic. And unlike yesterday, where my left trap muscle was so unbelievably sore, like I've never experienced before, this time both of my trap muscles were slightly sore, which was actually a good sign in my mind. I'd much rather both feel tired and slightly sore than one side feel ridiculously, unbelievably sore, and then the other side of the muscle feel completely fine. So that was a plus in my mind. I was happy that both muscles were tired. First things first, though. I was very set on getting a fire going to dry all 3 pairs of my socks the best that we could, because on top of wanting a dry pair to wear tomorrow, I also need 2 dry pairs to sleep in tonight since it was going to be a low of 20 degrees, even colder than it was the previous night. Before gathering wood, though, we walked down the bank about 75 yards to the Cold River to fill our bottles for the night. This way we didn't have to leave the campsite again for the rest of the evening, so we got that out of the way first. Josh, unfortunately, took a major tumble on some ice while walking down to the river, too. He was fine, though. After we got back up to the lean-to, it was time to gather firewood, and unlike the Kelly Point campsite, good campfire wood was hard to come by here. The woods had been picked solid. So we had to go further into the woods to find what we needed, and even then, it was minimal. But we got a decent amount of wood after a while and started making the campfire. And unlike last night where we opted for the teepee-style fire, tonight we went with the log cabin campfire to start. We got the fire burning, and then we both lined our socks and our boots right in front of the pit, drying from the flames. Now it was time to put on the Crocs. Oddly enough, despite the cold and the winter and the snow, walking around barefoot in Crocs wasn't that bad, and it was relieving knowing that my socks and boots were along the campfire trying to dry. So I was doing everything that I could. I also took yesterday's clothes and lined them on the fire too to dry a little bit better for tomorrow. The beauties of winter camping. Stuff doesn't dry. As the fire was burning, I now changed into my night attire to sleep in tonight and cleaned up with a Venture Wipes wet wipe. I highly recommend them. It's a great product, and they're 12 inches by 12 inches, so they're nice and big, and you only need one to clean up. Great product, Venture Wipes. Again, I wore lightweight base layers on top and bottom, and a second heavyweight base layer on the bottom, a mid-layer coat, and my puffy jacket to bed, 800 fill. No socks yet, as they were both drying, next to the fire along with my boots. Trying to dry anyways. So we've been here at the Cold River Lean-To number 2 for just over an hour. We went down to the river when we first got here to grab some water, to fill up our water bottles for the evening and for tomorrow morning. Then we grabbed some wood all around the forest here to get a nice campfire going, which is happening now. Trying to dry off our socks and our boots and all that jazz and get a little warmer. Fortunately, the snow has stopped at the moment, and the sky above us is pretty blue. Hopefully that stays that way. We're going to have some dinner and just relax, and hopefully everything gets dry, and then we'll just go to sleep once the sun goes down, like we're supposed to do as humans. It'll be a nice early night tonight. Josh was shot from the day and didn't even feel like cooking, so he slammed a simple bagel and peanut butter, and since that's what I ate for both breakfast and lunch, I was not having another one for dinner. And in an effort to get a hot meal and lighten my pack for tomorrow, I got out my MSR pocket stove, I cooked another bag of chicken and a box of rice, and it truly hit the spot. Hot, tasty, and a lot of food. After dinner, we cleaned up. I took care of business down at the Thunderbox, and then it was time to hang the bear bags. And in case you've never hung a bear bag, you want to find a good, strong limb on a tree about 15 feet up, and something that sticks far out from the tree so that a climbing bear can't climb up and still get it. To hang it, just put a rock from the campsite in an empty bag, tie it to one end of your rope or your paracord, which should be about 30 to 40 feet long or so. Paracord is very light and strong, so buy paracord next time you're out there. Next, you toss the bag that's tied to the paracord with the rock in it up and over the tree limb, while the other end of the rope is in your hands the whole time. Then lower the rock bag down, replace the rock bag with your bear bag, filled with your food and your toiletries and anything with a perfume or scent of any kind. Anything that's not found in the woods, basically, that a bear might smell. Attach it to the rope, pull the paracord to raise the bag back up into the air, hanging it from the limb about 15 feet above the ground, and then tie the other end of the rope to a tree so the bag can't fall. Voila. Done. Walk away. And once that was finished, we kept throwing all the wood we had on the campfire to keep it burning, in an effort to keep the drying dream alive. Fortunately, my socks got a good 50% drier, though, I will say. My boots, maybe 15%. But hey, I'll take it. We were very tired at this point today and ready to turn in for the night again, so I sent a goodnight text to our wives and parents at home via my Garmin InReach Explorer GPS, since we definitely had no cell service back here, and then we suited up in all of our layers and we got in our sleeping bags. I didn't mind the cold so much, but I just didn't want to get snowed on again tonight. So I decided to pay a small fee to have Garmin send my GPS a basic weather forecast for our location, simply to have an idea of what to expect tonight. Despite the temperature being a low of 20 degrees, there was only a 10% chance of precipitation tonight, which had me excited, but then again, last night was also a 10% chance too. So we went to sleep knowing that we might get snowed on, but it seemed like we might be in the clear tonight too. Only time will tell. The wind calmed down again as the sun went down for the evening. I went to sleep with all of my layers and also had some other items in my 20-degree sleeping bag with me in an effort to dry them overnight from my body heat inside the sleeping bag. This included my other socks, my other shirt, and even my shoe insoles joined me for the night, which was a great choice because it works and they needed to be dry. The fire was slowly burning out. we were both laying on our beds in the lean-to, quickly falling asleep, thus ending day